story begins in a rural village. Since it was getting dark, people on the streets were told to hurry home. Things hadn't been peaceful lately. A man warned villagers to light incense and close their doors properly to keep the old black snake from getting in. Rumors were going around that this snake had eaten 2 more people at a mountain god temple a few days ago, including a cultivator. The man he was talking with said he hadn't heard about the snake eating people, but mentioned chickens and ducks disappearing from the village recently. A child suggested to his father that they bring their chicken inside too. He knew it would stink, but figured that was better than losing their chickens. The father agreed, and they decided to hurry home. As they passed a house, the father complained about how chilly he felt. Little did they know, something was inside one of those abandoned houses. A snake began to hiss. He knew the old black snake they were talking about was him, but he didn't think he was old or scary. He had heard the rumors about the 2 people from a few days ago, and yes, he had eaten them. A man had yelled for help, calling him a human-shaped pill, and saying he must pay with his life, especially after fattening up from medicinal herbs. The man cried and begged for mercy, praying to the mountain god for help. Back then, the snake couldn't understand what they were saying, but the guy looked so miserable that the snake decided to end his suffering and ate him. Then another person showed up. The old man looked pitiful, pointing at the person being devoured and complaining it was his human-shaped pill that he'd spent 10 years refining. He demanded the man be returned. Because the snake wanted to end the old man's suffering too, he decided to reunite them. But the snake didn't expect what happened next. He suddenly had a breakthrough. Not only did he develop a demon core, but he also gained intelligence. From then on, he learned a lot of dangerous and scary things he didn't know before. One thing this snake learned was that the black-clothed humans who had chased him were called snake catchers, cultivators from the snake catcher sect. The snake had once seen them surround a huge python and realized these human cultivators were really strong. He learned that cultivators can keep getting stronger as they cultivate, starting from chi refinement stage to foundation establishment, then core formation, and even nascent soul stage. The snake knew his previous escapes were just luck. He realized humans are scary, but cultivators are even scarier. It wasn't easy for the snake to gain intelligence, and that drove him to survive. He realized hunting birds of prey and humans was too risky, and stealing chickens and ducks was safer. But now his stomach was growling because he was hungry again. A couple of chickens and ducks didn't fill him up anymore, and they were getting harder to steal. He noticed that humans like to name themselves. He didn't like being called an old snake when he wasn't that old, so he decided to name himself Suhei. Suhei heard that a rich household in Xinjia was farming pigs. Later that night, at a rich household in Xinjia, Suhei crept into the pig pen. The pigs were clueless. When he saw the fat pig, Suhei knew it would be enough to fill his stomach. He looked around and figured the humans who owned the pigs had gone to bed. Without hesitation, he devoured 1 pig. The other pigs woke up and made loud noises while running away. Suhei wanted them to stop screaming since they might get him killed if they attracted people. He grabbed another pig and ate it too. He felt happy and full, but then realized he'd eaten too much. He decided to sleep until morning to help him digest before leaving. 2 hours later, a man was shouting that some brat had stolen his woman. Someone suggested he stop hitting a guy named Chenfan because he looked like he'd stopped breathing, but the man didn't care since the brat had dared steal young Master Chiogang's woman. They headed toward the pig pen. The snake woke up and saw them coming. Since humans scared Suhei, he decided to hide. The man threw the brat into the pig pen. Suhei hid behind the planks on the ceiling, hoping they wouldn't notice him. The man told his big bro that the brat wasn't breathing anymore. His friend replied that it was good the brat was dead and his body would be food for the pigs. They left while complaining about the smell. One also noticed there were fewer pigs than before. Suhei peeked out. The pigs approached the body. Suhei had heard that a dead human brings bad luck, so he decided to leave quickly. To his surprise, the man suddenly opened his bloodshot eyes. Suhei was shocked to see him come back to life and wondered if he'd just been pretending to be dead. The man started laughing loudly, claiming he was an immortal who had finally possessed someone and reincarnated. Coincidentally, both the body's original owner and the immortal shared the same name, Chunfan. The immortal soul commented that the previous owner was trash. His engagement had been called off and his core destroyed, but the immortal who took over the body decided to get revenge for the poor man. Suhei wondered who the man was talking to. The immortal inspected the body and said it was badly injured. If he hadn't possessed it, the body would have died, but the injuries weren't a problem for him. Suhei knew staying longer would be bad. The man turned and spotted Suhei, recognizing him as a spiritual beast. Suhei panicked, worried the man might be a high-level cultivator or worse, a snake catcher. He hoped the human would ignore him since he was just a low-level spiritual beast that wasn't worth the trouble. The man sat cross-legged and focused on circulating his energy to heal himself while releasing spiritual energy to scare the snake away. While doing this, an item appeared. The man was surprised that the supreme treasure of the demon clan, the divine demon cauldron, had reincarnated with his divine sense. Speaking to no one, he muttered that the ancient dragon of the void was wrong. Suhei thought the man, the snake catcher, had started casting spells to kill him, probably because he'd eaten 2 pigs. Suhei overthought the situation because he didn't want to die yet. He wondered if he should return the pigs, but he'd almost finished digesting them. As the man continued his spell, Suhei panicked more. Feeling cornered, he opened his mouth wide and approached the man. Suhei kept thinking he was forced to do this. The man was surprised to find half his body already in the snake's mouth. Suhei gulped him down. Suhei was happy he'd done it, but couldn't relax yet. He crawled away as fast as possible since the place wasn't safe anymore. The man was still alive inside his belly, annoyed that a lowly first-level spiritual beast had ambushed him. He told the snake he'd given him a chance, but instead of running away, the snake had eaten him. The man gathered strength and told the snake it had sealed its own doom. The man used his skill, Fury Boundless Ocean, a powerful punch. The snake felt the man continuously punching his gut. Suhei was shocked the man wasn't dead yet and could cast spells inside his stomach. The pain for being kicked in his gut was terrible, but he tried to stay calm. Eventually, the man found the snake's demon core with its protective shield. The man thought the snake was acting cocky because of that, but for Suhei, it was a lifeline. The man gripped it, causing cracks to form. Suhei coughed up blood, experiencing intense pain. He couldn't help thinking how terrifying snake catchers were. Suhei writhed in agony, wondering if this was the end. He couldn't move anymore. Suhei felt frustrated since he'd worked so hard to condense his demon core and gain intelligence. He shed a tear, regretting his decision to steal those filthy pigs. Meanwhile, the man was munching on the snake's insides, delighted to eat snake meat to nourish himself. To his surprise, the divine demonic cauldron appeared. It moved away from him, so he chased it but had trouble retrieving it. Suddenly, the space became bright. A yellow mist formed something, a menacing dragon face. The man thought it was because the divine demonic cauldron had absorbed the beast's demon core fragments. He couldn't believe the demonic cauldron was helping the beast and realized the snake wasn't an ordinary spiritual snake. The demonic cauldron made a ding sound, making the dragon roar loudly. The man was enveloped in a beam of light that shot out from the snake's mouth and eyes, making Suhei writhe in pain. The man's skin was burning. He couldn't accept it since he was an immortal. Eventually, nothing was left of him. The sun rose and birds chirped. The snake's body was torn apart, but then one pig started trembling in fear because something began to move again. It was Suhei. He was alive, but crying because his demon core had broken. He lay in a puddle, and the water reflected the dragon from the demonic cauldron. The next day, the pigs were biting the snake's tail like they were having a feast. One pig chomped on the tail. Surprisingly, the tail moved and threw the pig in the air. Suhei rose, telling the pig to stop biting his tail and vowing to eat all those pigs later. The pigs ran away as fast as they could. Suhei's tail quivered with pain, which annoyed him, but he was also confused about still being alive. He remembered his demon core had been shattered by the person he'd eaten. The demon core is the foundation of cultivation for every demonic beast. Suhei wondered how he'd cultivate without it. He cried, thinking he was finished, but then realized he was still alive despite his demon core being shattered. He remembered the divine demonic cauldron mentioned by the human. He was confused why it was sitting where his demon core had been. He wondered if it had replaced his demon core and saved his life. Now he could see inside his own body and even inside the pigs too. He figured this must be one of the divine sense cultivator's skills. He was pleased to have a cultivator ability now. He could see even with his eyes closed, which would make hunting food and avoiding dangers much easier. But he noticed there was more. His brain was flooded with information, the cultivation technique of the man he devoured. Suhei felt his head itching, a sign his brain was growing. Though he didn't know what use it had, he was sure it could heal injuries. He decided to try the person's technique to channel energy. He tried to recall the man's chant, but settled for channeling his demon core naturally. He focused on his demon core and felt a sensation, like the aura around him was slowly gathering. Soon after, his tail started healing. He was impressed by how quickly it happened. Just a few deep breaths, and spiritual energy filled his body. He felt refreshed, like he'd eaten spiritual earth herbs. The technique's main purpose must be for increasing cultivation, with healing as a bonus effect. His demon core had shattered. Normally, he shouldn't be able to store spiritual energy, so he figured the cauldron had become his new demon core. Without overthinking it, he set off to find a place to sleep for a few days. He made a mental note that if a random young man could be that strong, he shouldn't mess with humans in the future. But before leaving, Suhei's eyes glowed as he remembered the pigs. He reasoned that if he was going to cultivate, he should fill his stomach first. Later that day, by a river, Suhei reflected on how, after swallowing that human-shaped pill and gaining enlightenment, his brain often experienced new knowledge popping up, and after swallowing Chanfan, that feeling had grown stronger. A few mornings later, Suhei suddenly understood the human cultivation system. It turned out that demonic bees' cultivation was the same as humans. It was divided into numerous realms: spiritual awakening, foundation establishment, demon core, and nascent soul. This was like evolving into a higher being. His current cultivation was at the peak of the first level of spiritual awakening, equal to the peak of the first level of chi refinement for humans. In his dreams, Suhei saw demonic beasts that could split heaven and earth, which he longed to become. This was the path he needed to take to avoid being hunted and to survive. So Suhei began cultivating. For the past few days, Suhei had been practicing that mysterious technique. He discovered it not only healed, but also improved his physique and cleansed his meridians and marrow. It helped him expel impurities and shed a layer of skin. After a week, Suhei felt completely different. The horn above his head had grown longer, and his scales had become stronger and more impressive. However, something bothered him. Suhei had gotten smaller. He should have grown larger after shedding his skin, but his size had decreased from 36 feet to just 6 feet. Now he was only as big as a small bird, which irritated him so much that he smacked the bird with his tail and ate it. Despite his smaller size, his speed and strength had increased significantly. His flexibility had improved too, and his skin could stretch more. He should now be able to eat larger prey. Suhei was certain the cauldron had become his new demon core. He had a feeling once the spiritual energy inside the cauldron was full, he'd be able to break through. The energy needed for cultivation was enormous. Although the technique let him absorb spiritual energy from heaven and earth, that alone wasn't enough. Cultivator demonic beasts couldn't live without food. If Suhei wanted to break through, he needed lots of energy and blood, which meant lots of food. Later that night, he spotted a boar in a field happily eating a watermelon. It was a large beast and dangerous. According to the cultivation system, Suhei was now at the peak of the first level of spiritual awareness. The boar had no intelligence and was below Suhei's level, so as long as he was prepared, he'd be able to fill his stomach. He held a stone in his mouth, thinking it would be enough to kill the boar. He crept behind it, but stopped when he saw the boar was already looking at him with menacing eyes. All he could do was sarcastically ask, "Is the watermelon ripe?" But his excuse didn't work as the boar roared loudly. Suhei ran away in fear with the boar chasing him. He reached a dead end and knew he couldn't keep running, so he had to use his full power or he'd be done for. To fight back, he threw stones at the boar. His plan was to hit it first. The stone made the boar bleed. Suhei doubted if it was dead and decided to take a bite out of it to make sure. But as he was about to bite it, something stopped him. He vomited because the boar had something hard inside. Then he saw a demon core and realized this wasn't a normal boar, but a demonic one. He'd heard demon cores contain explosive energy, so he couldn't swallow it raw or he might explode. To absorb it, he needed to make it into pills, but he didn't know how. In the wild, demonic beasts swallow corpses and demon cores together. He reasoned that if beasts exploded from swallowing demon cores raw, demonic beasts would have gone extinct long ago. Then he realized his knowledge was all focused on humans. The physiques of humans and demonic beasts are different, so he should be able to eat it safely. He opened his mouth wide and ate the core, complaining it was hard to swallow. Afterward, his stomach felt hot because the divine demonic cauldron inside his body was absorbing the power of the demon core. The demon core's power filled the cauldron. He felt a sensation throughout his body, the feeling of breaking through. Moments later, his body shone. Suhei had reached the second level of the spiritual awareness realm. He was thrilled. He noticed 2 scales on his tail had turned gold. He smashed a rock with his tail, and was amazed at how strong it felt. The scales were as strong as steel. As he crawled on the grass, he noticed something. A human stood before him. Worse, it was a young man. Suhei started to panic. Who is this mysterious young man? And what fate awaits Suhei? If you're dying to see what happens next, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, peace out, stay on your cultivation path, and I'll see you in next video.